Concept of the human language. The human language are the different paths to express feelings, ideas, thoughts, and needs. Since ancient times, our ancestors started to communicate themselves using different means as body language, animal or nature sounds, and gestures. The word language is applied to the way animals communicate and express themselves, but their communication procedures, even of great subtlety like bees or ants, there is language in the strict sense, or at least no studies have not quite sure know how this language works. Language is a human activity that comes with a man who belongs to him alone and lets you communicate and relate to understand and convey messages. The language has been formed within society. It is a quintessential social event. We can say that is that everyone has the ability to communicate with others through oral or written signs. Origin of human language. Language in a communication system that has undergone a number of evolutionary changes which continue as we speak. Speech is understood as the capacity or faculty of speech, the ability to make sounds with meaning. Language is a system or set of articulated sounds that humans communicate, but we can say that speech is not all to express ourselves. It is also a gesture that replaces speech in the case of the deaf or mute people. But if the gestural system is speech in its entire and is a form of communication that all human beings in different ways will use mime, spoken, signs, or symbols.
There are different theories of the origin of the human language, as divine theory. This theory first appeared in the Genesis and sound language as a gift that was given to man in the moment of creation. The oral gesture. This theory, over time they started to use not only their hands, but also movement of the mouth, lips, and tongue, which subsequently developed into speech as we know it. Natural sounds. There exist several hypotheses which attempted to explain the emergence of speech on the basis of sound imitation or unintentional sound production. The theory of onomatopoeia. This theory is said to be a language that emerged from the imitation of different sounds of nature. Theory of affective expression. In this theory of affective expression, sensation produced by contact with the world, like a surprise, pain, joy, etc., full of emotional exclamation. This last theory does not contradict the onomatopic or imited theory, but they do complement each other perfectly. Deaf people have their own language using hands, and people using braille system. There are also mimics who use their own language too.
We should mention the way we have improved our teaching was that we knew how language evolved and realized that we need to know exactly how, as a teacher, we have been using the different theories of the language, such as onomatopoeia, natural sounds, mimics, gestures, and body language, and how we can take advantage of all of them. As teachers, we can apply all of them in a higher or lower level in order to do not translate to students words or phrases into Spanish, so they can infer through the different ways we have mentioned before the meaning. Our conclusions were that it is very important that as English teachers, we must know the origin of the human language in order to have a better use and understanding of it, our students to have a meaningful learning.
إن شاء الله إنه ما نعمله ينال إعجاب الجميع ويقدم ما نستطيع من أفضل
reden, wenn es sein muss, und die anderen skandinavischen Sprachen.
The Babel story from the Bible basically shows how it recounts or reconstructs how languages were created, where people were trying to build a certain tower very high to reach the sky. For their over-ambition, God created all of these languages among them so that they couldn't talk to each other.
Languages we have at the moment have been the result of, systematic changes as people, spread out, and, making modifications to their, phonological aspects of the language, grammatical aspects, etc.
They speak Sindhi because Sindhi is very sweet and very sweet language.
Indonesia have a 27 province and they have a different language, but our language is actually Indonesian language.
If people have similar genes, they tend to speak also similar languages. Genes change much more slowly than languages, and therefore the similarities between populations, although they may seem big to us, if you look at the skin color, some people are dark and some are light, and it seems like a big difference. But if you look at the genes, the populations are very similar.
In the early 20th century, it was considered racist to talk about connections between genes and languages. And I think this was because they were talking about primitive languages and primitive peoples.
Languages are always, all of them, constantly changing precisely because they're learned, they're transmitted, and every generation hears a slightly different mix of speakers, interacts with its own peers in different ways. Every child learns a slightly different variant of the language. So all languages always change gradually.
זה המרכז, אמנם זו לא העיר בירה של קנדה, אבל זו העיר הכי גדולה. פה קורה הכל.